Hello, my dear students of class 4. We will be continuing with our English class, and today we will be taking chapter 2, that is the two rats. Okay, I repeat, the two rats. And this is me, Miss Vivekunyo Villiers from Mount Sinai Higher Secondary School. This chapter is a poem. Okay, we will be doing a poem since we have already done a story in our previous class. The second chapter is a poem that is in page number 6. I want you to get your books ready with chapter 6, and you see the two pictures here. These are two rats, okay? You have seen rats at home, and there are some of you who keep rats as your pet also. And today we are going to discuss about two rats which are black in color. First of all, we will read the first paragraph, okay? We will see that two rats complementing each other. Complementing means saying good things about each other. They are a pair, okay? One is, okay, you can consider the masculine and the feminine gender. And in our case, you will consider it a boy and a girl, isn't it? One is a he rat and the other one is a she rat. And so we are going to hear about their conversations. But before getting into the conversations, there are some words that you need to learn, because unless you learn these words, it is going to become difficult for you to understand the poem. So I always keep the word meanings ready ahead of time so that you will be prepared to learn the poem as you need to learn it. Okay? So the first word that we are going to do is duel. Can you see the word duel? Okay, this is duel, a place for living in. I repeat, duel, a place for living in. For human beings, we know that we live in houses, right? We live in houses, but for animals, they live in different kinds of places. We know that every creature or every organism has a place to live in that is called dwelling. Okay, living in a place is called dwelling. The next one that we are going to learn is witch. You have heard of the word witch a lot of time, I'm sure, and you have even seen in the movies or even in your cartoon characters, there will be witches. And we always consider witches to be a creature which is not very pleasant. So let's learn about the meaning of the word witch. A woman said to use magic, especially for evil purposes. We know what is evil. Evil is the opposite of good. And so a witch is a woman said to use magic, especially for evil purposes. Okay? Let's go on to the next one, pronounce. Pronounce means to declare or announce. Pronounce, declare or announce. That is the meaning. Charms. Let's come to charms. Give pleasure or delight. Charms, give pleasure or delight. The next one is venture. Undertake a journey in which there is risk. Okay, let me touch this a little bit. Many of us want to go on a journey, if it is for a vacation or something of that sort, or a picnic, but there are some journeys which can be risky. Okay, you might not want to go there, but you are compelled to go. That means you are venturing into something. There are some ventures that you go voluntarily without anyone compelling you because you want to take the risk. For example, climbing a cliff which is quite steep and it is risky, but you still want to go for it. That is also called a venture. Venture can be of two types. One can be forced venture, and another one can be a voluntary venture. You just want to explore things, though you know that it is going to be risky for you. That is also called a venture, okay? The next one is befell, happen to. Let's read again. Befell, happen to. So these are some word meanings that I've prepared for you. I want you to have a quick look before I go on to the next slide. Dwell, witch, pronounce, charms, venture, and befell. So these are the words that you need to keep it ready in your mind. You don't have to memorize it, but I'm sure by now you have got some idea of what these words means. Some of you will already be aware of these things. That's very well and good. And if there is anyone who does not know the meaning of these words, since we are prepared now, let's go on to reading of the poem, okay? The two rats. Okay, this is the first verse of our poem. He was a rat and she was a rat. And down in one hole they did dwell. I repeat, dwell. We have already learned that. And both were as black as a witch's cat. And they loved each other well. Okay? So, this is the first verse of a poem. We are going to learn about the two kinds of rats here that we see. He was a rat and she was a rat. So that means there are a pair of rats, okay? One is a she rat and one is a he rat, and they live in a hole. We all know that rats live in holes, isn't it? They don't live in properly constructed houses. And when I say that, don't misunderstand that, because we know we find rats even at our homes, isn't it? But they don't come and live with us in our kitchens or in our rooms. Even if they sneak out to find the food in our rooms, they still go back to their house, okay? Let's say their house, because they live in the holes, we will consider that as their house for today. And so they dwell in the hole. And both of them were as black as a witch's cat, okay? You know a witch, right? We have already learned of who a witch is. And we also know that witches are always accompanied by cats. And we can also think of a broom right now. So those are some items that a witch uses. And we also know very well that witches prefer black cats. And so the poet here describes the two rats as black as a witch's cat. They are not cats, but it is as black as that. That means they are very black, but they loved each other so much. The two rats loved each other so much. The good thing about them is they loved each other so much. We all know that we need to care and love for the other person, and so also as animals, okay? Even animals have feelings. We think that sometimes we may even tend to be cruel to animals, but we have to think that they also have feelings like human beings, though they do not say it verbally, okay? That is one thing that we have to keep in our mind. The two rats loved each other so much. Let's get on to the second verse. He had a tail and she had a tail, both long and curling fine, and each said, "Yours is the finest tail in the world excepting mine." Okay, that means we know that all rats have tails, isn't it? All rats have tails, and so it describes, the first line describes that both of them had tails, both as long and curling fine. You know what is long? I don't have to explain that. You know what is curling? We have people who have curly hairs, we have people who have straight hairs. So curl means not straight, okay? Both their tails would be curling, but not in an ordinary way. It is curling fine. That means it appears very beautiful with their long tails. The two black rats look very beautiful with their long tail, which is curling fine, okay? And each of them compliments. I told you in the first introduction that they will be complimenting each other. We all like to get complimented, I'm sure, isn't it? Even you feel good when one of your friends compliment you. Compliment means saying good things about you. We feel good. We also feel proud at times. And so even these two rats were complimenting each other about their tails. Both boys and girls, we always want to say good things about our friends if we see something. Except some people, they don't want to say anything good even if they see something good in their friends. But for normal people, we always want to make sure that our friends feel good because of our words and not get hurt. But here we will also see a little bit of irony here in their complimenting. They said, "Yours is the finest tail." Okay, you have the best tail in the world excepting mine. That means both of them compliments each other, but they also want to say and think that theirs is the best. Okay, your tail is very good and it's very fine, and it cannot be compared to any other tail except mine. That means the speaker, okay, one of the two rats is speaking, but she said that hers is better than his tail. That's what they say to each other. Not just one, but both of them say the same thing because they want to feel. They feel and they think that their tail is the best tail in the world, okay, in the world excepting mine. So they are complimenting each other, but they always want themselves to be in the best position. This is what we see a lot of times, even in our life, isn't it? We want to say something good to our friends, but we still want to think that ours is the best. Though we are still complimenting, we don't want to be lower than a friend or somebody who is next to us, even to our friends. That's what we see even in animals. The third verse, he smelled the cheese and she smelled the cheese, and they both pronounced it good, and both remarked it would greatly add to the charms of their daily food. Okay, you know what is a cheese? In case if there is anyone who does not know what is a cheese, you watch the cartoon characters Tom and Jerry, and we will also always see Jerry feeding on cheese, isn't it? So they both smell the cheese. We know that rats like to have cheese, okay? Rats like to have cheese. If you keep your cheese outside on the table in the kitchen without closing it and you go to bed for one night, if there are rats at your home, it will not be safe. They will just eat everything away, okay? So both of them went and smelled the cheese. They smelled the cheese and they both pronounced it good. What is the meaning of pronounced? I've already told you in the beginning, isn't it? I want you to recollect that. Pronounce means declare or announce. Both of them accepted and admitted, okay? They said that the cheese is good. And as every rat would say the same thing. Every rat would say that the cheese is good, and both remarked it would greatly add to the charms of the daily food. And they both were just discussing. They both just said that it would be so good if they can have cheese in their daily food. That is what they wanted, okay? So they were just smelling the cheese and they were discussing about it. Like all of us. If you get some food items, or if you are preparing something even before without starting to eat on that food, what we do, especially when we are with our friends, we keep discussing about the food, how tasty it would be. Or if you have already experienced that kind of food, you would be sharing the experience that you had. You would be sharing the taste that you experienced along with your friends, isn't it? That's what we do. But these two rats were just smelling and they were discussing now. They have not started eating, but they pronounced the cheese to be good, okay? So he ventured out. This is the fourth verse. So he ventured out, and she ventured out, and I saw them go with pain. For what befell them, I never can tell, for they never came back again. So after all these discussions, both the rats ventured out. Okay, I want you to look at the verse. They ventured out, both of them ventured out, and the poet saw them go. Okay, the poet saw them go with pain. They were moving out, and then the poet was filled with pain for what befell them. Befell means happened to. For what happened to them, I can never tell. The poet does not know what happened to the two rats, okay? The poet does not know what happened to the two rats, but he saw them go, and it was a very painful thing. They were lovely peers, okay? They were two lovely pairs of rats. They loved each other so much. They cared for each other so much. But when they ventured out, okay, we have already learned the meaning of venture, isn't it? Venture means, you can just recollect, undertake a journey in which there is a risk. So they were taking the risk and venturing out, okay? They went out. We do not know the reason why they had to go out, but they ventured out into some places which is unknown to the poet, and they never came back. And our poet here is Laura E. Richards, okay? Laura E. Richards. And this poet says that it was such a lovely thing to see and witness these two rats sharing their love, sharing their joy, and their conversation. But at the end, what happened to them was unknown. Okay, I repeat, what happened to them was unknown, and it was a painful thing. It was a very painful thing for the poet to see them that they don't return back. Okay, because they never came back. This is the poem that we are going to learn today. I'm sure you have got it, but I'll give you a quick recap before we go into some exercises that we are going to do. We also have some exercises. I want you to keep your books ready and also your copies ready even as you listen to this explanation, okay? Because after this summarization, I'll give you a quick summary of this poem, and then later on we will go on to the exercises. Quickly, in the first verse, we see that the two rats were described by the poet. They lived in a hole, okay? They lived in a hole and both of them were black. I want you to remember. The poet describes them as black as a witch cat, and they loved each other. So that's the first verse. And then the second describes about their experience, their physical appearance again. Their physical appearance, that is mainly to do with their tails. They were complimenting on each other's tail, okay? They complimented on each other's tail, saying that the other's tail is very good, accepting hers. And even the other one said that accepting his tail, the peer's tail is very good. They were describing each other. And in the third verse, we see that they were discussing about food. Food is as important to them as to us. Even human beings, for us to go a day without food is difficult. So the same with animals, okay? So they were discussing about cheese, okay? That is their favorite food item. They smelled it and then both of them pronounced it good, and they wanted to have cheese as their daily food. But in the last verse, in the last paragraph, we see that they had gone on a venture and they never returned back. And that pains the heart of the poet Laura E. Richards, right? That they never came back and he did not know what exactly happened to them, okay? We will quickly discuss about the rhyming scheme. I do not know whether you have started learning the rhyming scheme or not, but it is not a difficult thing. Just by seeing that it is a new word, you don't have to worry, okay? Just by seeing that rhyming scheme is a new word to your ear, you don't have to worry, because once I read out this, it's going to be very easy for you. Let's all take the textbook and mark the mark the last word of every line. It is also called syllable, but we will not be doing syllable right now, because in your higher class you will learn what is a syllable, okay? Let's all take the last word of every line. In the first, you see rat, isn't it? He was a rat and she was a rat. So rat. In the second one, you see, and down in the hole they did dwell. You see here, rat, dwell, cat, well. These are the last words of every line. So rhyming scheme will be like this. You have to see how it sounds. Rat and cat. The first line rat and the third line cat sound similar with one another. So we call this as the rhyming. They rhyme with each other. The second one is duel and the fourth one is well. So rat, duel, cat, well. The rhyming scheme of this paragraph is A, B, A, B. The first one will always be taken as A, okay? The first one will always be taken as A, so you have to take that as A, B, A, B. So I will not do everything for you. I'm going to give you the exercises as homework. In the second verse, we see tail, fine, tail, mine. So tail and tail sound similar. Even the words are similar here. Fine and mine are similar again. So the poet has written the poem in such a good rhyming scheme, isn't it? And then the third one is cheese, good, add food. So what is different here? If we are going to take the rhyming scheme, it can go like this. A, B, and add is different again. So you can take that as C. A, B, C, B. Okay? Because why B again? Food and good sound similar. That's why we are taking this as A, B, C, B. And the last verse we see out, pain, tell, again. Right? So we have learned the rhyming scheme. You can also try it by yourself so that you will learn more. I'm just going to ask you to do the exercise of masculine and feminine gender in your book. You will find that in your page number 8, okay? Page number 8, you will find an exercise. I want you to try on that. And for today, we are just going to end our class from here. If there's anything that is confusing you, you can always be free to contact your teachers anytime. They are ready to help you. And please make sure that you do your homework and show it to your teachers. I'm sure your teachers will ask you to submit your copies on time. In page number 8, question number F, there are some exercises that you need to do it. Please complete it and give it to your teachers for correction. And with that, we are ending our class for today. Thank you so much for listening to me.